The message glowed on Commander Jack Miller's datapad. He read it 3 times to be sure he understood. The Galactic Conclave had invited Earth to join the celestial trials. After 200 years of keeping humans at arm's length, the most powerful group in the galaxy wanted to see what they could do. Jack ran his hand through his short gray hair and looked out the viewport of his quarters. Stars streaked by as the U.S. Dauntless continued its patrol of the solar system's edge. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 23 years. Most alien species still viewed humans with a mix of fear and curiosity. Deathworlders, they called humans. It wasn't meant as a compliment. Earth, with its high gravity, extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, and countless diseases, was classified as a death world. A planet so harsh that most aliens would die within minutes of setting foot on its surface. The fact that humans not only survived but thrived there made other species nervous. Jack tapped his comm badge. "Lieutenant Gray, please report to my quarters." Allison Gray arrived 5 minutes later. She was tall and lean, with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. As second in command, she was the first person Jack wanted to discuss this with. "You look like you've seen a ghost, sir," she said as the door closed behind her. Jack handed her the datapad. "Not a ghost. An opportunity." She read quickly, her eyes widening. "The celestial trials. They're inviting us. Apparently the Conclave is curious about what humans can do." Jack stood and paced the small room. "This could change everything for Earth. Or it could be a trap," Allison said. She was always cautious, which was why Jack valued her opinion. "No human has ever competed in the trials. We don't even know what they involve. The message says we can bring a team of 12. Our best and brightest." Jack stopped pacing and faced her. "If we do well, it could open doors for trade, technology exchange, maybe even military alliances. And if we fail, then we confirm what many already believe. The humans are just primitive apes who got lucky with space travel." Jack sighed. "But I don't think we will fail." Jack called a meeting in the ship's conference room 2 hours later. Around the table sat the crew members he'd selected based on their unique skills. Sam Rodriguez, the xenobiologist with an almost photographic memory for alien life forms. Kate Williams, whose engineering skills had saved the ship 3 times in the past year. Ben Foster, head of security and former Olympic athlete. Dr. Olivia Martinez, who could treat almost any human injury or illness with minimal equipment. There was also Eric Johnson, a Marine who had survived alone for 30 days in the Amazon after a training mission went wrong. Lisa Parker, communications officer who spoke 15 languages, including 3 alien ones. Ryan Clark, who could hack almost any computer system. Nicole Adams, a brilliant scientist with degrees in physics and chemistry. Daniel Cooper, whose perfect memory and musical skills helped him find patterns others missed. And Heather White, a tactical officer who could plan 10 steps ahead in any conflict. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jack began, "we have been invited to represent Earth in the celestial trials." He watched their reactions. Surprise, excitement, concern. This team, he thought, was humanity's best chance. "The trials begin in 1 month at Nexus Station. We don't know exactly what challenges we'll face, but we know they'll test us to our limits." Jack looked at each person in turn. "This isn't just a competition. It's our chance to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." Allison spoke up. "Many species see our world as a brutal, primitive place. They see us the same way." "Then let's change their minds," said Dr. Martins with a determined smile. Jack nodded. "Pack your gear. We leave for Nexus Station tomorrow. The Dauntless will carry Earth's hopes with it." As the meeting ended, Jack felt a mix of pride and worry. The galaxy was about to discover what it meant to be from a death world. He just hoped they were ready. The U.S. Dauntless dropped out of warp speed near Nexus Station. The massive structure hung in space like a gleaming metal flower, its petals stretching outward from a central hub. The human crew stared in awe at the view screen. None of them had seen anything this big built by alien hands before. "It's beautiful," Kate Williams whispered, her engineer's mind already trying to understand how the station worked. Jack Miller nodded. "And intimidating. Just how they want us to feel." The ship docked at one of the outer pedals. As the 12 humans prepared to board the station, Dr. Martinez ran final medical checks. She had spent the 3-week journey making sure everyone was in peak condition. "Remember," Jack told his team as they gathered at the airlock, "we're not just explorers today. We're Earth's representatives. Every eye will be on us." The station's artificial gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's. The air smelled clean but strange, with hints of scents no human had names for. The welcoming area bustled with activity as beings from across the galaxy moved about their business. San Rodriguez couldn't stop staring. "That's a Zentari," he whispered, pointing at a floating crystal being that glowed with inner light. "And those are Muldoon giants. They'd breathe methane." His face lit up with joy. "Most of these species I've only seen in books." A group of small blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms each approached the humans. They wore simple white robes with golden symbols that marked them as station staff. "Welcome, Earth delegation," the lead alien said in carefully practiced English. "We are Elixians, the keepers of Nexus Station and administrators of the Celestial Trials. I am Guide Zalorn. Please follow me to the ceremony hall." As they walked through wide corridors, aliens of all shapes and sizes stopped to stare at the humans. Some whispered to each other behind breathing masks or translator devices. Others moved away, as if humans might be dangerous. "They act like we have some disease," Ben Foster muttered. "To many of them, we might as well have," Dr. Martins replied quietly. "Our bodies host millions of bacteria that could be harmful to some species, and our physical strength scares them." The ceremony hall was enormous, with high ceilings and walls made of some clear material that showed the stars outside. 17 different areas were marked on the floor with unique symbols. Guide Zalorn directed the humans to stand on a blue circle with Earth's continents etched into it. "The welcoming will begin shortly," the Elixian said before hurrying away. All around them, the other competing species took their places. Some looked vaguely humanoid, while others were completely alien. Clouds of gas contained in special suits, beings that seemed made of living shadow, and creatures so strange the humans couldn't tell which parts were bodies and which were clothing or tools. A hush fell over the hall as 5 ancient Elixians floated onto a raised platform. Unlike the younger guides, these elders had skin that had faded to pale white, and they moved without touching the ground. "Honored competitors," the center elder's voice boomed, somehow understood by all present despite their different languages. "Welcome to the 527th Celestial Trials. For thousands of years, these competitions have brought together the finest specimens from across our galaxy." The elder paused, and his eyes seemed to linger on the human delegation. "Each of you represents the unique strengths of your species. Some of you come from ancient civilizations with technologies we can all learn from. Others bring biological advantages evolved over millions of years. And some," the elder looked directly at Jack, "come from worlds that have shaped them through hardship and challenge." A murmur ran through the crowd. Many eyes turned toward the humans. "Let us introduce our competitors," the elder continued. As each species was announced, holographic images appeared above them, showing their homeworlds and basic information. When Earth's turn came, the images showed storms, volcanoes, and predatory animals. From the Death World Terra, known to its inhabitants as Earth, we welcome humanity to their first trials. The whispers grew louder. Allison leaned close to Jack and said, "They don't expect us to last long." Jack smiled. "Then we'll just have to surprise them." After the welcoming ceremony, the human team was shown to their quarters, a set of connected rooms with simple beds and strange-looking bathroom facilities. That night, they slept poorly, each wondering what the next day would bring. Morning came with a soft chime that echoed through their rooms. An Elixian voice announced, "All competitors, Please report to Testing Chamber 1 in 30 minutes. The humans dressed quickly in the special suits provided to them. Lightweight blue material that fit perfectly and seemed to regulate their body temperature. Good for monitoring our vital signs too. I bet, Dr. Martine said as she examined the fabric. Jack gathered everyone before they left. Remember, we adapt faster than most species. Use that to our advantage. Testing Chamber 1 was a massive round room with walls that seemed to shift and change color. The 17 competing teams entered through different doors and stood in marked circles. Many aliens looked rested and confident. Some appeared to have special equipment with them, though the rules stated all teams would begin with equal resources. The Elder Elixion from the ceremony appeared in the center of the room, floating a few feet above the floor. The first trial tests endurance, the Elder announced. You will face changing conditions for 72 standard hours. You may rest, but those who leave the chamber are eliminated. Basic survival needs will be provided, but you must adapt to use them. Before anyone could ask questions, the Elder vanished. The room shimmered, and suddenly the temperature plunged. Frost formed on every surface, and the air grew so cold the humans could see their breath. Circle up, Jack ordered. The team formed a tight group, sharing body heat. Kate pulled tools from her pockets. She had predicted they might face extreme conditions, and had come prepared. Basic fire starting kit, she said, assembling a small heating unit. Not enough to keep us warm forever, but it'll help. Across the chamber, some alien species seemed completely unaffected by the cold. Others were already struggling, their bodies not designed for such temperatures. For 6 hours, the cold continued. 2 teams gave up, their members leaving through doors that appeared in the walls. Then, without warning, the temperature began to rise. Within minutes, the room became a steaming jungle. The walls sprouted plants, and the air filled with moisture so thick it was hard to breathe. Shirts off, conserve water, Ben Foster advised. The team stripped down to the minimum needed for modesty. Dr. Martins passed out small tablets. Salt supplements, she explained. We'll sweat a lot. Hour after hour, the conditions changed. When the room filled with water, Eric Johnson showed everyone how to create breathing tubes from plant stems. When the air thinned to mountaintop levels, Lisa Parker remembered a breathing technique she had learned from Tibetan climbers. When strange insects appeared, Sam identified which were likely harmless. By the 36th hour, 5 more teams had dropped out. The remaining competitors watched each other warily, each searching for signs of weakness. The humans were tired, hungry, and sore, but they helped each other through each new challenge. The Muldoon giants are struggling with the humidity, Allison noted quietly. And those shadow beings can't handle the bright light periods. Jack nodded. Everyone has weaknesses, even us. His voice dropped lower. But we're good at hiding ours. At hour 50, when the gravity suddenly increased to twice Earth normal, many aliens collapsed to the floor, unable to move. The humans felt the strain but remained standing. Their world's higher gravity had prepared them for this. This is where we shine, Ryan Clark said through gritted teeth as he helped Nicole Adams stay upright. The final hours brought a barrage of challenges: radiation, sound waves painful to most species, and rapid pressure changes. The human team worked together, finding solutions for each new problem. When one person struggled, others stepped in to help. As the 72nd hour approached, only 12 teams remained. The humans, exhausted but unbroken, had survived. When the chamber returned to normal and the doors opened, the Elder Elixion reappeared. He looked at the surviving teams with new interest, his gaze lingering on the humans. The first trial is complete, he announced. Rest now. The second trial begins tomorrow. As they left the chamber, Jack noticed other competitors looking at his team differently, no longer with disdain, but with caution and perhaps a hint of respect. They didn't expect us to make it, Ben said quietly. Jack smiled. That's the advantage of being underestimated. The human team rested in their quarters after the first trial. Their bodies ached, but their spirits were high. They had proven they could endure physical challenges. Now they waited to see what came next. "I bet the second trial will test our minds," Nicole Adams said as she ate a protein bar. "The Elixians value intelligence highly." Jack nodded. "Get some sleep. Whatever comes tomorrow, we need to be sharp." Morning arrived quickly. The 12 remaining teams gathered in a new chamber. This one was smaller, with 12 separate areas, each containing what looked like control panels and strange devices. The Elder Elixian appeared. The second trial tests intelligence. Each team must solve a series of puzzles. Those who solve all puzzles within 6 hours continue to the third trial. The teams moved to their assigned areas. The humans found themselves facing a panel covered in symbols none of them recognized. "Alien mathematics," Ryan Clark said, studying the patterns. "But math is a universal language. We just need to find the logic." The first puzzle seemed to involve matching sequences of symbols. Nicole and Ryan worked together, looking for patterns while the others watched and offered suggestions. "There," Lisa pointed. "The symbols on the left appear in the same order on the right, but with extra marks." Ryan nodded. "It's a transformation puzzle. We need to figure out the rule that changes one set into the other." After 20 minutes, they solved the first puzzle. The panel changed, revealing a new challenge, a 3-dimensional structure that needed to be balanced. Across the room, they could see other teams working. The crystal beings called Zenturi moved through their puzzles quickly. The strange shadow creatures struggled, 2 of their members arguing in hissing whispers. The puzzles grew harder. The 5th one involved sound patterns that seemed impossible to decipher. The team stared at each other in confusion. "I can't make sense of this," Ryan admitted. Daniel Cooper, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. "Let me try." He closed his eyes and listened to the sounds playing from the device. His fingers tapped against his leg. "It's music," he said. "Very strange music, but it follows mathematical rules. The pattern repeats but shifts up 1 tone each time." Daniel hummed the sequence, then reached out and pressed symbols on the panel in the same pattern. The puzzle light turned green. "How did you do that?" Sam asked in amazement. Daniel shrugged. "Perfect pitch. I can hear patterns others miss." As they faced the final puzzle, a complex problem involving what seemed to be 5-dimensional shapes, the team worked together. Nicole handled the mathematical theory. Ryan translated it into terms everyone could understand. Daniel found musical patterns in the number sequences. The others contributed insights from their various backgrounds. With 15 minutes remaining, they solved the final puzzle. Their panel glowed green, indicating completion. Jack looked around the room. Only 8 teams had finished. The others still struggled with puzzles, their members showing signs of frustration or exhaustion. The Elder Elixian returned. "The second trial is complete. 8 teams will advance to the third trial." As they left the chamber, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms approached them. Its species was called Nyxeri, known for their intelligence and advanced technology. "Your approach was unexpected," the alien said in perfect English. "You think differently than most species." "Is that a compliment?" Allison asked. The alien made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "An observation. You solved the 5-dimensional puzzle by converting it to sound. No other species would attempt such a method." "We use what works," Jack said simply. The alien studied them. "Perhaps. The third trial begins tomorrow. It will test something humans are not known for." "What's that?" Jack asked. "Cooperation," the alien replied before walking away. Back in their quarters, the team discussed what they had learned. "They're starting to take us seriously," Heather White said. "I saw the way the judges watched us." Jack nodded. "Good, but tomorrow will be harder. If the third trial tests cooperation, we might need to work with other species. With aliens who think we're primitive." Ben asked, frowning. Yes, Jack replied. And we'll need to prove them wrong about that too. The morning of the third trial arrived with tension in the air. The 8 remaining teams gathered in a large circular room. In the center stood the elder Elixion, his white robes flowing around him, as if caught in a gentle breeze. The third trial tests cooperation. The elder announced, "You must work with those you consider opponents. Each team will be paired with another. Together, you must complete a shared challenge." The pairings appeared on a large screen. The humans were matched with the Nixari, the purple 4-armed aliens who had spoken to them after the second trial. Jack caught the eye of the Nixari leader, a tall figure with elaborate markings on his face. The alien did not look pleased. "Your challenge," continued the elder, "is to transport a fragile artifact through a labyrinth. The artifact cannot withstand sudden movements or stress. If it breaks, both teams fail." Each pair received a crystal sphere that glowed with soft blue light. It felt warm to the touch and hummed quietly. "The human Nixari team will enter Labyrinth 3, said a younger Elixion guide, leading them to a dark doorway. Inside the labyrinth, the lights were dim. Walls of strange metal stretched high above them, forming passages that twisted in all directions. "I am Ambassador Kelthorin," the Nixari leader said stiffly. "We will lead. Your species lacks the intelligence to navigate this challenge." Allison stepped forward before Jack could respond. "With respect, Ambassador, we should combine our strengths. You may have superior technology, but we have skills you lack." "Such as?" asked a female Nixari with skepticism in her voice. "Physical strength, creative problem-solving, experience with unpredictable environments," Allison replied calmly. Kelthorin made a dismissive gesture with his upper arms. "We proceed my way. The artifact remains in our care." For 30 minutes, they followed the Nixari through the maze. The aliens used a small device to scan the paths ahead, but twice they reached dead ends. The second time, a wall slid down behind them, blocking their retreat. "Your scanner isn't working properly here," Jack pointed out. "There must be something interfering with it." "Impossible," Kelthorin snapped, but doubt showed in his eyes. Heather White had been watching the Nixari closely. She noticed how their skin gave off faint patterns of light when they communicated among themselves. "Ambassador," she said, "I believe I understand the problem." She pulled out a small light and began creating patterns similar to the ones on their skin. The Nixari froze, staring at her in shock. "You speak light language?" Kelthorin asked. "Not fluently," Heather admitted, "but I recognize patterns, and I see patterns in this maze too. Look." She pointed to small markings on the floor. "These aren't random, they're directional guides." The female Nixari bent down to examine the marks. "She's right," she told Kelthorin. Reluctantly, the Nixari began working with the humans. They discovered that the labyrinth contained both technological and physical barriers. When they encountered a sealed door with no visible controls, Ryan and the Nixari technicians worked together to hack it open. When they faced a gap too wide to jump while carrying the fragile artifact, Ben and Eric created a bridge using materials they found along the way. Slowly, respect grew between the teams. The Nixari stopped dismissing human suggestions. The humans listened when the aliens offered advice based on their advanced knowledge. "Your species is full of contradictions," Kelthorin said to Jack as they approached what seemed to be the final chamber. "You lack our technology and scientific understanding, yet you solve problems in ways we would never consider." "Different paths can lead to the same destination," Jack replied. The last challenge was the hardest. They needed to carry the artifact across a floor that shifted and tilted unpredictably. It would require perfect balance and coordination between humans and Nixari. "We must trust each other completely," Kelthorin said, looking Jack in the eye. "Can your people do that?" Jack nodded. "We can, and we will." Working as one team, they crossed the treacherous floor when a human stumbled. A Nixari caught them. When a Nixari needed strength, a human provided it. Step by careful step, they reached the other side with the artifact intact. As they placed the crystal sphere on its pedestal, it glowed brighter, bathing them all in blue light. A door opened, revealing the exit from the labyrinth. "We did it," Allison said, smiling at the female Nixari who had worked closely with her. Together, the alien agreed. 5 of the 8 pairs completed the 3rd trial. The human Nixari team finished second, a result that shocked the watching conclave members. "Perhaps," the ambassador said, "we have misjudged what it means to come from a death world." That evening, rumors spread through Nexus Station about the final trial. The 5 remaining teams prepared in their own ways. The humans gathered in their common room, tired but determined. "The final trial has never been fully completed," Sam told the group, sharing information he had gathered from conversations with other competitors. "At least not in recent history." "What does that mean?" asked Kate. "That it's impossible." Jack shook his head. "Nothing is impossible, just difficult." Dr. Martinez checked everyone's health. Despite the challenges they had faced, the team was holding up well. Their time on Earth had prepared their bodies for stress in ways most species couldn't match. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Jack said as they prepared for sleep, "we've already shown the galaxy what humans can do. Be proud of that." Morning came too quickly. The 5 final teams assembled in a solemn chamber with stone walls and dim lighting. The elder Elixian floated in the center, his eyes closed as if in deep thought. "The final trial," he said without opening his eyes, "tests the heart of your species. It is not about strength, intelligence, or teamwork. It is about values." The elder's eyes opened, glowing with an inner light that filled the room. "Each team will face a challenge unique to their species, a choice that reveals what you truly stand for." One by one, the teams were led away to separate chambers. The humans entered a room that seemed to shift and change before their eyes. Suddenly, they found themselves standing on what looked like Earth. But this was not the Earth they knew. Cities burned in the distance. Storms raged across the skies. The ground shook with earthquakes. A voice spoke from nowhere and everywhere. "This is a simulation of Earth's possible future. Your planet faces destruction from natural disasters, war, and disease." Images flashed around them. Floods destroying coastal cities, forests burning, people suffering. "Your choice is this," the voice continued. "You may save your world by agreeing to erase Earth's location from all galactic records. Humanity will continue, but in isolation, never to join the wider community of species." The team looked at each other in shock. "Or," the voice went on, "you may maintain your place in galactic society, but accept that millions will suffer and die on Earth as these events unfold." Silence fell. The choice seemed impossible. "How is this a fair test?" Ben asked angrily. "Either abandon our future among the stars or watch our people suffer." "Perhaps that's the test itself," Allison said quietly, "to see how we handle an impossible choice." The team debated intensely. Some argued that protection of Earth must come first. Others insisted that humanity's future lay among the stars, and isolation would only lead to stagnation. Jack listened to everyone's views. Then he stepped forward. "We reject this choice," he announced firmly. The others looked at him in surprise. "Humans don't accept false dilemmas," Jack continued. "Throughout our history, when faced with impossible choices, we find another way." Jack proposed a third option. "We will share Earth's disaster response protocols, medical knowledge, and recovery strategies with the Galactic Conclave. Knowledge we gain through our experiences on a death world. In return," he continued, "we ask to maintain our place in the galactic community and receive help in protecting Earth from these threats." "This is not how the test works," the voice responded. "You must choose one path or the other." "No," Jack said, and the entire team stood with him. "That's not who we are. Humans don't sacrifice our values or our future when challenges arise. We find solutions others haven't considered." The simulated Earth around them froze, then faded away. The chamber returned to its original state. The elder Elixian stood before them, studying their faces. "Interesting," he said. "Most species choose one path or the other. Protection or progress. Safety or growth. But we don't have to choose," Nickel said. "We can have both." The elder nodded slowly. "Perhaps, or perhaps that is human arrogance. It's human hope," Jack corrected. "And it's kept us alive on a death world for thousands of years." The elder gestured toward a door that had appeared in the wall. "The final trial is complete. Return to your quarters and rest. The conclave will deliberate on the results." As they left, Jack wondered if they had passed or failed. But he knew they had stayed true to who they were as humans. And that, he believed, was what mattered most. The human team waited in their quarters for a full day. They talked little, each lost in their own thoughts. Had they made the right choice? Would the conclave understand? Or would they be sent home in disgrace? On the morning of the second day, a young Elixian arrived to escort them to the Great Hall. "The conclave has reached their decision," she said. Her face revealed nothing. The hall was filled with aliens from all competing species and many observers. The 5 final teams stood in a semicircle before the raised platform, where the elder Elixians waited. Jack noticed that the Nixeri team looked calm and satisfied. The shadow beings seemed to flicker with nervous energy. The crystal Zentari glowed steady and bright. The last team, a hive mind collective called the Vorix, pulsed in perfect unison. The eldest Elixian floated forward, his white robes making him look like a ghost against the dark backdrop of space visible through the clear ceiling. "For thousands of years," he began, "the celestial trials have identified those qualities most valuable to our shared future. Each trial has had a purpose, to find species with strengths we all need." The elder looked at each team in turn. "Always before, we have declared one victor. One species whose qualities stand above all others." A murmur ran through the watching crowd. Was tradition about to be broken? "Today, we do something unprecedented." The elder raised all 4 of his arms. "Today, we recognize the unique strengths of multiple species." Gasps and whispers filled the hall. The elder continued. "In the Nixeri, we saw unmatched intellectual rigor and precision. In the Zentari, perfect inner harmony. In the Vorix collective, the power of unified purpose. In the Tellurian shadow beings, remarkable spiritual insight." Then the elder turned to the humans, his ancient eyes studying each team member. "But in humanity, these Deathworlders who many doubted would survive the first challenge, we witnessed something unexpected." The hall fell silent. Jack felt his heart beating fast. Not specialized excellence, but extraordinary adaptability. Not the highest capability in any single domain, but remarkable competence across all domains. Not rigid adherence to established approaches, but innovative solutions we had not imagined. The elder floated closer to the human team. In the final trial, each species revealed their core values. The Nixeri chose knowledge above all. The Zentari chose harmony. The Vorix chose unity. The Tellurians chose spiritual growth. "And the humans?" he asked, looking directly at Jack. "They refused to choose between 2 goods. They insisted there must be another way." For a moment, Jack feared they had failed by breaking the rules. Then the elder smiled, a strange expression on his alien face. "Humanity's greatest strength is not that they are strongest, fastest, or smartest," the elder said, addressing the entire hall. "It is that they refuse to accept limitations as final. They transform obstacles into opportunities." The elder returned to the center of the platform. "This quality, this defiance against impossibility, is what our galaxy most needs as we face uncertain times." The Elixian raised his arms again. "Today, the conclave extends formal invitation to Earth to join us not as junior members, but as full partners." The hall erupted in sounds, clicks, whistles, rumbles, and words in 100 languages. Some seemed pleased, others shocked or concerned. As the ceremony ended, Kelforan approached Jack. "It seems we will be seeing more of each other, Commander Miller." "I hope as friends," Jack said, extending his hand in the human gesture. Kelforan hesitated, then took Jack's hand in two of his. "Perhaps. Your species still confuses me, but I admit I am curious to learn more." On the journey home aboard the Dauntless, the team gathered on the observation deck, watching as Nexus Station grew smaller behind them. "What happens now?" Kate asked. "Everything changes," Jack replied. "For Earth and for the galaxy." Allison smiled. "Not bad for a bunch of Deathworlders." Jack looked out at the stars stretching before them. Being from a death world wasn't our weakness, it was our strength all along. The ship jumped to warp speed, carrying them home with news that would change humanity's future forever. The day they had defied expectations had become the day they found their place among the stars.